Hey guys, Cade here, host of the Primitive Podcast. Thanks for joining this week's episode with Rick Betenbough. Rick Betenbough and his father founded Betenbough Homes around 1992 and have grown it to be a significant home building company in all of West Texas. Just a really great conversation with him. Two things that really jumped out to me is when he talked about his role as a leader and what he sees his role there being. And then two, really loved some of the things he shared about failure and how he learns from failure. So hope you enjoy this week's episode, and thanks for listening. Rick, really appreciate you being here. I know you're busy, and really appreciate the time that you are giving us on the podcast. So for those who don't know who Rick Betenbough is, why don't you tell us a bit about you, about your family, about your professional background, and let's start there.
Thanks, Wade. Man, it's a blessing to be here with you. Well, I have been in the home building business since 1992. Actually, a little before that.
Okay.
But I used to be, before that, a long time ago, in the software business. I flunked out of tech in 82.
Before you were in software or after you were in
Before
software?
I was in software, right? If you don't go to class, turns out your grades are going to be bad and they're going to invite you to do something else. I guess I'm just not an academic kind of a guy.
Sure.
So at the time, my dad, Ron Betenbough, had a real estate business here in Lubbock and had for 25 years before that.
Okay.
And he was busy going broke, in fact, and finished that in 1984. Lost everything. Had some apartments and motels and shopping centers and that kind of real estate, and most of it was very highly leveraged. So he lost everything in 84 and ran away from home, he would say. He ran away to California from here. And I was 19. He and my mom, his wife of 21 years, got divorced. So he really lost everything. And I was here in Lubbock, again, just flunked out of tech, and Dad said, well, I guess you're on your own now. He'd been paying for the college that I wasn't attending, and so I went and got a job. Came to work for a software guy here in town, a local software company, CompuShare. I have no idea why Dr. Marvin Crossnow gave me a job, because academics were pretty important to him.
That wasn't your thing.
That wasn't my thing, obviously. He invited me to give him a better effort than I gave Texas Tech University. That's a question he asked me. Are you going to give me a better effort than you gave Texas Tech University? And, nobody ever really asked me that question. I just kind of was wandering along, and that gave me an opportunity to say, am I going to do that, or am I just looking for a job? And I decided in that moment, you know what, I'm going to say yes to this. He's not going to give me a job if I don't say yes. But also, I'm going to say yes because I'm going to give him a better effort. It's time for me to do something different.
Was that a conscious thing that you felt that moment?
Yeah, it was.
I really want to give life more than this?
I was just looking for a job, right? Yeah. I flunked out and didn't have any other options, so I was looking for a job. But he was inviting me to more than that, right? And it's a reminder to me that I should ask young men and women that I encounter that same question, right? Sometimes they just need to be asked that question, invited to give their best if they haven't been, right? So I did, and worked for him for 5 years. It was a blessing. I learned a ton. I always knew I was going to be in business for myself or in some way, because I love the marketplace. I grew up going to work with my dad, worked for him during the summers, mowing lawns in his apartments and that kind of thing. And so I just loved what he did. I didn't even totally know what he did as a young man. I just knew he talked to people and made deals, and it seemed like a fun thing. And so I wanted to do that at some point. And that opportunity came in about 88. I built some homes because blocks were always my favorite toy as a kid. I liked building stuff. So building some homes became an idea that I had, and I built some homes, got a blessing from the Lord. And Dr. Lillian Cho here in Lubbock, an oncologist here in Lubbock, gave me an opportunity to build her some rent homes, 10 of them. She still has those 10 rent houses from all those years ago. And that got me in the building business. And Dad was in California trying to figure out, the next chapter of his life. And I said, hey, why don't you come back to Lubbock and let's build some homes together. You sell them and I'll build them. And Dad said, all right. And so in 1992, he moved back to Lubbock. from San Diego, California.
And that's the origin story of Betenbough Homes.
That's it. We started Betenbough Homes about sometime in April.
Okay.
We celebrate the anniversary around the middle of April as our. We don't know exactly what date that was.
Sure.
It's one of those kind of things, right?
That's cool.
And so we started Betenbough Homes in 1992, the two of us.
And obviously Betenbough is known now for just extremely rapid growth and, successful in every way, from culture standpoint, people standpoint, mission and value standpoint, and just the sheer number of homes that you build. So when you started in 92, what was the original vision? Like that's where it is now, but how long did it take before you realized that vision, or did it just kind of accidentally happen, or kind of go through that journey from 92 to now and what that looked like for you even personally?
Well, that's a super cool question. Dad and I talk about this all the time because really I built those 10 homes and I developed a system for trade relationships in which we don't take bids. We build a home on paper, all the costs. We've carefully calculated what everything costs, and we invite trades, sheetrockers, framers, roofers, to buy into that and to take the price we offer. And so you're going to build a discount into that also, because value is critical to this system that we have. We want to create value for people. In other words, more home than you paid for, right? So that was my big idea in 1992, and Dad loved that idea. But he added to our little new business this idea that we should honor God. Very specifically, he asked me when we sat down, he said, hey, I didn't dishonor God, I don't think, in my business life before this, but I don't think I overtly honored God. And I've been thinking about this, and if we had success, could we honor God? That's what he said to me exactly. And I didn't know what the heck he was talking about, right? I said, Dad, what the heck are you talking about? And he said,
sure, whatever, Dad.
He said, I don't know even what I'm talking about, but maybe we could commit to this. Maybe it means we give money away to whatever God might lead us to do. Now, first I was going to have to get to know God because I didn't know anything about God at that time. I believed there was a God,
sure,
but I sure didn't know anything about him. And I didn't know that Dad knew anything about him. We went to church a lot, but we never actually knew much about God, right? So I thought about it for a minute, and I remember thinking to myself, we could probably use all the help we could get. Maybe God could help us, I don't know. And so I agreed. I said yes. And I think that was a critical yes, right? God, I believe, came into our business in that moment and really gave us favor. Because, it's funny. I remember telling Dad somewhere in that early conversation, this was kind of my business that he was joining, right? I knew I couldn't really go forward without him or, joining me, and I was really excited about that. But it had been mine kind of before that. And I remember thinking and telling Dad, I bet we could build 50 homes a year. I mean, and he thought that was amazing. We thought that was an amazing vision. And so that was our vision for that, right? This year in Lubbock and Midland and Odessa and Amarillo, we'll build 1,350 homes this year.
Wow. How about that for some perspective?
I mean, wow.
So Dreamy Big in 92 was 50.
Yeah, right. That was our little.
Before you know it. Wow.
That was our little vision. Just even last week, I said, man, aren't you glad God gave us His vision and not my vision? Remember my little bitty tiny vision
50
that I would have been tickled with, I think, and had no idea what I missed out on, right? So
that's powerful. So how long, just out of curiosity, how long did it take for that to really? I mean, obviously, it's not in any business, it's not a straight line from 1992 and your vision of 50 to 2020 and on track to do 1,300. So at what point in y'all's business journey did you really kind of tap into your kind of progressive growth? Because you've grown aggressively every year for 20 plus years, right?
Well, I think that the Lord meets you right where you are, and then you start going forward from there, right? We started having success immediately, and really what happened was I engaged with God in that moment, right? I want to get to know you, Lord. I want to start talking to Him, hearing from Him, studying His Word, really getting to be part of His team, so to speak, right? We started having success immediately. We built, 15 homes that year.
Okay.
With only 8 months left
Yeah.
in that year. We closed 15 that year, 50 the next, and 100 after the next year.
Yeah.
So we were the largest builder in West Texas by the second year. We were profitable on the first day and every day since then, praise the Lord, right? And really, it's been very counterintuitive, which sounds like God, right?
Yeah.
It just doesn't work the way the marketplace thinks it works. So
That's cool.
I think one of the things that we started doing and started learning was great people. God sends people to us, and our leadership exists to help people find their highest potential. God made us all, and our highest potential is what He says it is, and I believe as a leader, it's my job to help people find their highest and best use. Interestingly, real estate is about that, right? Highest and best use. Taking something that's not doing well, it's not its highest and best use, converting it to that, take an old building, convert it to its highest and best use, and it becomes more valuable, right? And I think that applies to people, helping them to their highest and best use. In the early days, I thought my leadership was for me to do something, create something, climb mountains, do this. And that was me trying to lead me, and I needed to lead me in a different way, and God began to do that for me and then invite me to lead other people in a different way. We want to raise people up to their highest potential, especially if that means not for us.
Yeah, it's really good.
They might leave our company or our enterprise and go on to something else, and I want a legacy of helping people do that, right?
That's really good. Yeah, I mean, you really got into my first question, which was how you've seen your role as a leader throughout the years of your leadership. So at what point did that start to become really real to you? I mean, because I even wrote down what you said. Leadership exists to help people find their highest and best use. It's really powerful. What was your journey like getting there? From 92, and then you're trying to keep up with the chaos of a rapidly growing business and hiring and firing and financial decisions. So what was your journey of leadership to get to the point where you realized your role as a leader is to equip others?
Well, for me, that was somewhere in the early 2000s.
Okay.
Dad is a deal kind of a guy. He's a visionary leader. I'm the operational leader in our partnership, right? When Dad was in business, he didn't have lots of employees. He didn't organize. They just kind of was one deal to the next deal with a few partners. Right?
Okay.
So this organizational thing was mine.
I think I'd get along with your dad. I love the dreaming and the planning and the scheming, and then when you start getting into the details, I get desperate real quick.
And the people need both.
Sure,
right?
Absolutely.
And so that's what happens in a partnership where one of us is able to do that. So I was the organizational guy, and I was really struggling, mainly because I was selfish, ambitious for my own purposes, and really the Lord had to break me of that and invite me to invite some other people around me. This happened in the 2000s somewhere, maybe 2002. I don't remember when, but I really just started hearing from the Lord that I was to lift up a group around me that I already knew who they were, and I did know exactly who they were, and invite them into a leadership, and we would lead together. And it was no longer me leading them, and we're just going to go do this, and we're going to go do that, but together we're going to figure this out. And over the years, that has just become an incredible, amazing thing to give people territory, authority, and mean it. Don't invade the territory you gave them, but go with them and go along with them and help them really conquer that territory, and always inviting them to give away territory to others. And that cascading style of leadership, as we say, this highly relational, is an amazing catalyst. It's, God wants us to create a flourishing for His people. All of them. Everybody that's involved. And so my leadership in the marketplace is about creating flourishing for all the people around me, right? Great and amazing products and services for the customers. Great experience, because we're in this new experiential economy, right? The experience is more important than the product or the service. Actually, the way in which it's delivered is the most important thing. And so having a great experience for customers, and having a great experience for our employees that deliver those goods and services and that experience to customers, In other words, for everybody, including vendors and trade partners, I mean, slowly but surely, the Lord has widened our view. Everybody's included in this, how to help them flourish. And if we create a flourishing for everyone around us, then amazing things happen.
For the business.
For everybody.
Right. So that's really powerful. Can you unpack practically what it has looked like for you over the years to really empower the leaders around you? Like, and I would love, mainly because this is, I do this podcast so I can learn. So I hope other people listen and enjoy it, but the best part about it is I get to learn. And so I would like you, if you're willing, to be as pragmatic as you can about unpacking for me how you, when you realized you wanted to really help those around you lead, not just for your own good, but for their organization's good and their good. What did that practically look like? Did you start meeting with them 3 times a day? Was it title changes and the way you made decisions within the organization? But throughout the years, like, how have you practically helped those around you flourish in leadership? And then I loved what you said about that cascading style of leadership. So, like, what does that practically look like for you?
Well, it starts first, like most things do, at the very bottom. I mean, you're in a disaster. Organizationally, and from a leadership perspective, you're failing a lot, right? It's just not working well. And so
that comes out of necessity.
And that's a marketplace style of leadership that is, I'm the leader, you're the followers. We're both working on this stuff together. Mostly I'm driving you, pushing you, or pulling you, or based on different personality styles that looks different, right? But it's mostly still me going somewhere and dragging everybody with me, right? And a shift away from that to, what if God has given me a vision for something, right? And so we want to go there, and we're going to go there together, right? And I'm going to invite you to be part of that. And in fact, I'm going to focus on you. My mission is going to shift from what we're doing to you, to my team. I believe this is a powerful way for teams to thrive and become extremely fruitful in the marketplace or any organization today. And that is for the leader to determine that his or her job is actually the team. And that the job we need to do is theirs to do. And so I'm going to focus on you. And so what that looked like pretty practically for me was, I'm going to start pouring into the people around me. Instead of pouring all my energy into, let's go do this and y'all come along, right? I'm going to start pouring into y'all and inviting y'all to do it. I'll go with you, I'll help you, and I'm going to encourage you. And this is a relational style. This is a leader's not in his office with the door closed, or, in her home behind her computer. Right. It's an engaged leader, a relational leader who's engaged closely with the people that are doing this work, right? Whatever it is. Yeah. And so for us, we call this a relational style of leadership. And it's a bit counterintuitive. If I empower people, if I lead people well, encourage them and love them well, to be perfectly honest, then it turns out they'll do amazing things. Yeah. They'll love others well. And so for me, a small team, my leadership team, my job is them. My job is not doing the stuff that we need to do. That's their job. Yeah. My job is them. My job is to spend time with them, encourage them, lift them up, and make sure that they are making good decisions, because we're going to do them together. I'm going to offer a confirming style of leadership alongside them, right? So Cal Zant is the current president of Betenbough Homes. My job is not to be in his way. He's an amazing leader that God sent to me as a young man, an ex-drug addict and alcoholic, and an IT guy leading our home building business, right? Remember, I was an IT guy, though, that led.
That's cool.
So, it's about really pouring into people. And so he's like a son to me, right? And so I have a relationship with him like that. And that started early, and pouring into him and leading him in a very relational way led to
what you have now. That's cool. Have you, last question on this, I think I could extend the rest of the podcast here, but every leader on your leadership team has different personalities and different needs. And so what's your approach been in trying to, I find myself like having that desire, but not knowing like what Heather needs versus what Jess needs, or what Jess needs versus what Tim needs versus what Annie needs. So like, How did you kind of facilitate that journey of going, you know what, this person needs this and wants this, and this person needs it in this way? I mean, is it just intuitively filling it out, or how did you approach that?
Well, initially, and even still sometimes, the answer to that is poorly, right? I mean, what we tend to do is, unfortunately, we want to lead everyone the way we think we should be led, or the way we need to be led, right? With our personality style. Instead of adjusting to them, we also think everybody on the team should look and think and be just like us, and that's a disaster. That's not a team, you know. And so diversity is critical and amazing, and collaboration is the right way to think about this. You know, I've given Cal a lot of great ideas, but you know, Cal has given me a lot of great ideas, and come up with a lot of amazing ideas, right? So he's very different than Kerry on my team, right? I mean, they couldn't be more different.
Yeah.
And so it's about adjusting my style to them, right? I find, first, I'm committed to a relational style of leadership. I'm not going to, it's not an arm's length, you're over there, I'm over here, do what I say, kind of a leadership. It's a, hey, let's figure this out together. And first, let's start with this. I want to get to know you. I mean, I know these guys. They are really like my sons or my brothers, right? I know their kids' names. I babysat their kids. Holly and I have. We vacation with them. We know them well. We're very good friends. My best friends are these people, these leaders, these other leaders, right? Now, don't mistake what I'm saying for abdication of authority. God has given me authority in this business, right? But He's invited me to share that authority appropriately, that territory with these other leaders, and to go with them and progressively give them more and more territory, and together always making sure that we're going the right way. But, you know, we just recently, Cal had a big idea that we start doing some multifamily, build some duplexes, and we've never done that, ever. That's a brand new idea from him, and he wasn't sure how I would respond to it even. He came to me, and I immediately saw, I mean, he thought through it. He had some, I mean, it just felt like, I mean, that's what happens with a leader who is given authority. He knew he could do that. He knew he needed to get my confirmation, my blessing, if anything, if is maybe the right word for that. But I could give that quickly, and that has spun up and gone from just a little bit to a lot in a hurry, and that's an amazing fruit of this kind of leadership.
That's really awesome.
Because the truth is, I was going to die in 2003 or 4, whenever that was. I was just smooth going to die from the weight of trying to figure this out and doing it poorly and not leading with other people. That burden being shared by everybody in the collaborative style of leadership, where you maintain authority. I mean, we're not going to go do something. You know, I still have authority there that God has given me, and He'll release me from that at some point. And I'll know when that is. I knew when it was time to give Cal the authority to be the president of Betenbough Homes. He was 33 years old, I think, at the time. And cool. Lots of people said, you gave a $100 million company to a 33-year-old? And I said, well, no, God did. Yeah. And it's worked out pretty good. You know, the business has doubled, smooth double, and a little more in the 5 years that he's taken over. So that's either an amazing compliment to Cal or an amazing conviction of my leadership, right?
That's really great.
But I love that, and I'm excited about that, and it doesn't diminish my leadership even a little bit, right? It's exciting for that to be true.
Yeah,
it's exciting for that to be true.
Yeah, I haven't met Cal, but his daughter Hattie and my daughter Sailor are best friends. So they're in the same class at KPA and hang out all the time. So I was, as you were sitting here talking about it, I'm like, man, it's really embarrassing that over a year that Hattie and Selah have been friends I've never met.
Well, you know, that brings up a point. As leaders in the marketplace, can we work for years with people, lead people, in fact, very directly, and not know anything about them?
Yeah.
We're in this Facebook generation where we know lots and lots and lots and lots of people and nothing about very many of them, except what they show us on Facebook, which is, you know, that's a best of, you know, that's their best of album. That's what Facebook is, right? We just don't, if you don't know the spouse's name of the people you're leading, if you don't know their kids, if you don't know something that's going on in their life right now, do you really know them?
Right.
And if you don't, shouldn't you?
Yeah.
And could we lead them if we don't love them? And can we love them if we don't know them?
Yeah, that's good.
I mean, this was the shift
Right.
for me, a big one after the leadership thing. I remember we always thought that for our business to be God's ministry in the marketplace, it meant we made money because we were good at that and we gave it away to other people. And the Lord started talking to us about our business itself being His ministry. And what did that mean? I remember talking to my wife, Holly, who loves people very easily, very well. She's just built like that. It's natural. God sent her to me to help me with that.
Yeah.
And she has helped me with that a lot. And I remember she and I talking about this at one point. Our leadership team kind of was hearing this same thing. We need a different approach with our people, right? They're supposed to be our ministry. And just what that word is, a mysterious word that nobody knows what the crap it means. And I really just mean caring about them, knowing them and caring about them, caring for them, right? Helping them rise to be their very best, right? And I remember thinking, I think the Lord wants me to love these people, but I don't think I do. And Holly said, well, that's going to be a problem. Maybe you're going to have to ask the Lord to change that in your heart. I'm a task-oriented guy. That's something that the Lord did have to change and that He has changed in my heart. And so it's an amazing thing to shift from worrying about all the things that need to be done to helping the people be strong enough and encouraged enough to go get all the things that need to be done, right? That's a shift in leadership that is hard to explain, right? And it has amazing fruit.
That's really cool. Thanks for sharing all that. Man, it's good, really good stuff. Let's shift gears just a little bit. How have you approached or treated failure, through your 20 plus years of leadership?
Failure is the only real way that we learn. We really don't learn a dadgum thing with success. We think we're cool, we're smart, that's going to work out every time now for us. That's what we learn from success. The truth is, failure is the one and only place where we absolutely learn something. If we'll choose to make a different choice going forward, right? There's two parts to it, right? First, we got to acknowledge that it's a failure and determine what should be different about the next attempt here, and then we got to forget about it. Brett Favre. Y'all remember Brett Favre, Green Bay quarterback? He's my favorite quarterback. Yeah. I'm showing my age now. And one of the things I loved about him was because he'd go out there and throw an interception, and he'd be on the sideline for about 1 minute, kind of mad at himself, and then he's going back out there, and he believes in his heart,
throw for
100% that I'm going to throw a touchdown the next one, and it might be another interception. He goes back there, and so that's the way I want to be, right? No matter how many interceptions I throw, I want to believe that the next pass can be a touchdown, and go back out there. Now I might need to I need to not be arrogant,
right,
and make some adjustments to have a different outcome, but I need to forget about that. Not let that weigh me down and wear me out, right?
Right. Yeah, that's good. Do you have a process in which you and your leadership team, discuss and document, or whatever it is for you, failure? Like, it's a really good example, and I love what you said about acknowledge and forgetting. Like, a lot of people kind of camp out on it a long time. But how have you done that in the context of a team?
Well, collaborative. Collaboration is the most amazing thing that we have at our disposal. God's kingdom is a team sport. It's about us collaborating together. Between us, we're likely to get it right. That even started early on with Rick and Ron Betenbough. Very, very different people. I'm my father's son, so there's some things we both like: Fritos and donuts and steaks, and we think a lot alike in some ways, but we're also very different.
Yeah.
And that's what made us a great team. We would in the early days, we'd cuss and discuss and start out North Pole, South Pole, and find our way to the right place in the middle where the best possible decision can be made. Most of the time, we're going to blow this in isolation. We're going to screw this up. Me by myself, I'm going to make some bad decisions. I tell our teams, I tell Cal all the time, you and your team, and he has a team around him. I didn't give him just the job. Right. I gave him and a small team around him the job. And I said, y'all do this together, like we've been doing it all these years.
Right.
I didn't tell him to do something that we hadn't been doing. He knew what I meant. He knew what I was talking about, right? I said, and now when he says, what do you think about it? I said, what does your team think about it? And he says, well, they think this, and I think, you know what? Y'all's idea is always going to be better than your idea. Our idea is always going to be better than my idea. And we say, first thing to do is take an idea, a really good idea, and make it public right away to the group. And invite everybody before you've gone off and thought about it and cooked it up and gotten married to it. And you come back with this thing that cannot be changed.
All right, you're stepping on.
It's
baked.
baked.
On my toes.
I mean, it's completely baked, right?
Yeah.
The best time to bake the best way to collaborate on a cake is when you're mixing the ingredients, not after it's baked. Yeah. And so making ideas public with the group that should weigh in on that, not too many, but just the right number. That's going to make for the right decision. Between us, we'll figure this out. That's what we believe. And so it's very collaborative. That's what that looks like.
That's good. That's really good.
I can trust Cal and his team when in moments maybe I couldn't trust Cal.
Right. That's good. How have you approached your own personal growth? I mean, you made it really clear that your style of leadership has been very relational and, your desire to invest in other people. What have you done to make sure that you're the very best version of yourself so that you can then, help equip and support others? What does that look like for you throughout your career?
Well, it's kind of morphed, It looked like no development early on, right? That really didn't work too well.
Right.
And then more than anything, collaborative development. Again, really, I've grown because of the people around me. Now that requires two things that are critical to this. Number one, I must first invite them into that accountability, right? I must have the humility to do that. And that's what's missing from leadership in the marketplace as a rule. In our political system, in our government, in our schools,
everywhere.
In our businesses, in our churches, in every facet of organization, there's too much arrogance and too much competition and not enough collaboration. I can't say enough how much I've learned from my wife, my dad, Cal, Carrie, Walter, the other leaders that are around me. We learn things together. Now, we'll all go off and learn something from over here or over there, and then we share it together, and it multiplies everyone's growth. What do they say? At some point you stop buying suits, you stop being able to conquer the next level of technology. And so I believe a collaborative style. I'm sort of the old guy now around the office, starting to be, right?
Yeah.
But there's a lot of young people, and they know a lot of things, and my job is to be engaged with them, and then I can learn those things, right? Now, I can still teach them some old things that are still true and powerful, but most of those things can be reinvented in such a way that they're more powerful than they ever were, right? Most ideas have some root, most great ideas have some root in the past with a current innovation, with some vision for a future way that it could be, right? The largest real estate company, or the largest hotelier in the world doesn't own any hotels. That kind of thinking, Airbnb.
It's really good. You've used the word collaborative a lot. I mean, collaborative really in every level of your business, and it's been a powerful takeaway.
In fact, in your life.
Yeah. Yeah.
In fact, could we substitute collaborative for competitive? I'm a pretty competitive guy. All the people that I know that work for us. In fact, one day, not too long ago, I discovered that when I looked around, I realized we're very competitive, ambitious and competitive, but the Lord has softened all of us and invited us to be more collaborative, right? And boy, has that worked out.
That's good.
That doesn't mean that I'm not competing with myself to be better. It means that I'm not competing with you or someone else. That's not really the right way, I believe, to do this.
Yeah, that's good. You've been surrounded by a lot of great leaders. You've built great leadership teams. You guys started the Kingdom at Work, and so you're around other organizations and other organizational leaders. So what are 2 to 3 marks of really great leaders that you've observed throughout the years and that really jump out to you when you think of these leaders that pop into your mind, whether they're in Betenbough or whether at Kingdom at Work or whether at other organizations that you've been fortunate to be around? What are like 2 or 3 marks of really effective leaders that you've seen over the years?
Well, number one has to be humility. Coachability might be another way to say it. Because, see, I don't think I can be humble. Particularly if I say I'm humble, I'm probably not, right? What I can do is pursue humility. How about that? Let's think of it like that. What I should do is pursue humility. That means that in the moments when I'm not, because those moments will come, I will be coachable, right? Holly might say, boy, that sounded really arrogant, Rick. I love you, but it sounded really arrogant. Mm-hmm. See, in that moment, I have a choice now. Am I still pursuing humility? I wasn't being humble, but am I pursuing humility? So I'm going to renew my commitment to pursuing humility. I'm going to say, you're right. Love you. I appreciate that. And how could I do that differently or say that differently? That coachability, that pursuit of humility is a game changer. It's a deal breaker. Yeah. In fact, God says in His Word that the only thing He stands against is arrogance, pride. Everything else, He'll work it. He's like not happy about lots of other things, but He's like, we can work through this, Rick. Let's get over that. Pride, I'm standing against it. I'm going to let you die in whatever you're doing if you're going to be prideful about it. Humility and the absence thereof is the biggest disaster in the marketplace everywhere. Whether it be a president or a CEO or the senior pastor or a husband, it's a killer. A father.
That's good. That's good. What other marks come to your mind? So humility, really, really good one. What other marks kind of come to you when you think of all the great leaders you've been around?
Courage. We need courage to do some tough stuff. If you're going to be in leadership, it's going to require some courage. You're going to have to do some things that you don't dig. Yeah. Some things that are just not going to be very much fun, right? And courage is critical in that moment, right? To have that desire, that willingness maybe is a better thing. You can't really, I don't know about desire. It's about just in the moment, I got to go do this. I got to go have this conversation with this person. I love them and I want the best for them. So the best thing is not to ignore it, but in fact to bring it to them gently and in the course of our relationship or whatever it is. I need to go do whatever. Courage is going to be required, right? Mm-hmm. We believe that right behind that is improvement. I'm always trying to improve things. Myself, circumstances. We're dial twisters and knob flippers, and we break things that are working just to see if we could make them better. And when they don't, sometimes we got to go back to the original. You got to have the courage to say, let's try something different. And then you got to have the courage if that doesn't work out to say, that didn't work out. That was kind of dumb, really. Let's go quickly back to what we were doing, or think about this in a different way. So we are not shy about changing things, and we're not shy about apologizing and changing things back or changing things again if necessary for improvement. This is stewardship. I must take what I have or am given, and instead of wanting more, I should do something with it, create something from it. We should be more resource-oriented in our lives, right? What do we have that I'm not taking good care of or that's not at its highest and best use? And how can I change that? Constantly thinking about it that way.
That's good. We're almost done here. I got 2 more things. The first is, what role has vision played in your role as a leader, or maybe your observation of other leaders? Like, what's your thoughts on the role of a leader as it relates to vision and seeing the future, setting people up for that future? What are your thoughts there?
Critical. Right? It's for a senior leader particularly. In our organization, a visionary skill is required. Are you interested in that? For me to break something that's working, I have to have vision, right? For that. Because that works out more for us than it doesn't. That's the truth of it, although there have been plenty of times when it didn't. Yeah.
You said earlier you're a real operator and into the details. Like, how, as the company started rapidly growing, which it did very early on, how did you practically kind of step back from the doing and the details and the knob turning, as you referred to earlier?
Give real authority.
Yeah, so give it away so that you have the space then.
Sometimes that worked out, sometimes it didn't. But I can tell you that a big way to improve the opportunity for giving authority to someone and it working out is to go with them early on. Don't send them. Cal always says, you didn't toss me the keys and say, hey, hope this works out for you.
Good luck.
I went with him,
Yeah.
right? And we talked through things in the background for 5 years, right? And he progressively makes better and better and better decisions. And, he comes to a place where, sometimes I wonder how much he needs that anymore, right? But everybody needs encouragement and confirmation and strengthening. And what I find is that is the way that goes.
Yeah, that's good. So last thing, some years ago, you started handing off leadership. You've talked a lot about Cal and others, and you started an organization called Kingdom at Work. So maybe give a little backstory on that and tell everyone kind of what that is. And I'd just be curious, even myself.
Probably for 15 years, people have been interested in what we were doing. They've heard about it out there somewhere. They didn't know exactly what it was, and they would call us, or they would. Initially, it was our home building operation. Well, how are y'all being profitable? I mean, in 1998, 50% of the home builders in America went broke. 50,000 of them.
Wow.
And a lot of them were really, really, really smart, right? Some of them multi-generational. We grew in that year because God gave us Midland, Odessa. That's how that happened, right? He led us through a young man who was not a leader at the time to do that. And so the way we've been operating, which is under God's authority and very collaborative and very relational, these things that we've talked about, we got an opportunity to start sharing that with people. They would come visit. It happened a lot, or a phone call, or, get requests for contact. And so Kingdom at Work became this idea that we had been living
a long time,
for a long time. And the idea was, and this came as I transitioned out of a really active operational role in Betenbough Homes, an opportunity came to share that with businesses outside of our own.
That's cool.
And just use our experience. This is what we've seen. This is not, at first, it was not very much about teaching somebody anything. We're just sharing what was going on with our deal, right? And very slowly we began to develop the words and, well, why is that going on? Is there something you can do differently that would change that? And what did we do? Because sometimes we didn't even really know exactly what we had done or what had happened. We just kind of were in the middle of it. So Kingdom at Work is not a company. It's not an enterprise. It doesn't belong to us. It is just a collection of everything that God is showing us, that He's shown us in the past, that He's showing us right now, and it's going to change because He's going to show us something new in the future, and sharing that with other businesses so that they might unlock that in their own business.
That's really great.
So we call it Kingdom at Work. You can go see it at kingdomatwork.com. We have a little podcast.
Oh, cool.
We do workshops in Lubbock 2 or 3 times a year when there's not a pandemic going on. And we're actually going to have one in October.
Okay.
And everybody's excited about that. We're going to gather together and we're going to talk about this stuff. And we do some coaching, and we don't charge for that for the most part. If somebody's interested, we'd like to help them and walk with them and share everything that we have that God's shown us.
That's really, really cool. It's the first time I've ever met you, but the Betenbough story and all these things you're sharing in detail are things that, even from a very outside perspective, I've never been a customer.
Yep.
I don't know anyone on the inside, and it's really fun to hear you talk about these things in detail because they're things people observe from the outside. And I think I only bring that up because I think it really marks you, your leadership, your team, the whole organization with a kind of a level of credibility and authenticity that what you see and what you observe is what you then learn when you have the opportunity to see under the hood and see the details. So I, as a young aspiring leader, really admire that what I've perceived to be true of you, is real, and getting to kind of hear you talk about the journey and the details has been really, really fun and encouraging for me. So
nice.
I really appreciate your time, and thanks for coming in and sharing your story, and wish you all the best, moving forward.
Thanks. Same to you, my friend.
Yeah, I appreciate it.